What do you do when something terrible happens? Well, you can take responsibility for it, try to fix things and make amends, or you can dodge responsibility and try to hide the truth so you don't have to face the consequences. When it comes to Fazbear Entertainment, the company behind Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the knee-jerk reaction is to cover up as much as they can and pretend they're making efforts to fix what they cannot cover. And the first time we saw this was in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, when Fazbear Entertainment's efforts to cover up a horrendous crime resulted in a failed rebrand, numerous missing and deceased children, and 4 very broken animatronics that they tried to hide in the back room. But as it is with Freddy's, some things refuse to be forgotten, and graves are seldom dug deep enough. Today we are talking about the Withered Animatronics, the missing location, and Fazbear Entertainment's efforts to cover up after the missing children incident, and how it failed spectacularly. And it all involves Fnaf too. In it we play as security guard Jeremy Fitzgerald as he works the night shift at a newly reopened Freddy location. Due to events, upper management has replaced the old animatronics with brand new state-of-the-art animatronics with facial recognition technology built in to catch any unsavory individuals. These are known as the Toy Animatronics. But these are not the only animatronics, as the bots they replaced are still stashed in the back. Those animatronics now referred to as the Withered Animatronics. These broken and worn down bots are missing parts, dirty, and poorly taken care of, and are very much still active. Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, and Golden Freddy, but he's a unique case, are still aware and still wander out of the back room to hunt. It should also be noted that in Bonnie's teaser, it is implied that the old animatronics had parts taken from them to be put into the new ones. This could explain some of the severe damage. Whether or not this caused the toys to become haunted, or they were haunted by someone else, or truly not haunted at all, is unknown. I will be going through each of the histories of the Withereds and all about them in a moment, but there's something that needs to be covered first. You may assume these are the deteriorated versions of the classic band from Fnaf 1, and you're right, except swap their place in time. See, as revealed towards the end of Fnaf 2, it is actually a prequel to Fnaf, and you might be wondering how this could be. The missing children incident happened at the Fnaf 1 pizzeria. How are they already possessed? Well, throughout Fnaf 2, we get minigames that show more about the backstory of Freddy's and reveal key details we didn't get in Fnaf 1, including where the missing children incident actually occurred. 5 children went missing, and a character known as the Puppet was the one who attached them to the animatronics, causing them to become possessed. The missing children incident led to the closure of Freddy's, and then it reopened later with a brand new band of animatronics with this built-in security software. The only thing that isn't entirely clear is if this is the same building in Fnaf 2 or not. But it seems to me like it would be weird to move the Withered Animatronics to a new location just to shove them in the back. I think it's the same building and that not all of the minigames are exact maps. Unless the puppet gave gifts and gave life in a shed out back, which funny enough is entirely possible. But Fazbear Entertainment's efforts to right their wrongs were only skin deep. It's pretty clear the only reason that Fazbear Entertainment switched out the Withereds for the Toy Animatronics was less because they were ugly and smelled bad, but was instead for the good PR the new security animatronics would bring around. And because the Withereds were obviously haunted and absolutely soaked in corpse drippings. Families mentioned seeing mucus coming out of them in the old newspapers, and Freddy's had to get these things out of the public eye as fast as possible. But most devastatingly, their minimal efforts to try to stop something like the missing children incident from happening again failed. For as we see in the Save Them minigame, 5 more children were murdered at Freddy's, and this time after the toy animatronics were mounted on the stage, their bodies strewn throughout the restaurant, and the Purple Man, the murderer as revealed in this game, still lurking about. Phone Guy mentions this in a tape.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it.
This is the infamous DCI, the Dead Children incident, and except for this minigame and the Phone Guy's words, we don't know much else about it. except that it was likely another nail in Freddy's coffin. It didn't stop them for good though, as there was another effort to reopen Freddy's in the Fnaf 1 location before the fires and the eventual major rebranding years later. But why this is so important to the story of the Withereds is that they are the physical embodiment of the past that Freddy's couldn't cover up. And we'll get deeper into that, but before we do, let's cover each of the Withered Animatronics. First is the band leader and former face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Freddy Fazbear himself. In comparison to classic Freddy from FNAF 1, Withered Freddy has a longer face with a more rectangular head. His ears are higher up, his eyebrows thinner and softer, his eyes further set apart, his teeth slightly more pronounced, and he has 2 buttons on his belly. As for damage, Withered Freddy is one of the least damaged of the Withered Animatronics, with tearing fabric around his joints and looking rather dirtied. Withered Freddy will come out of the back room and linger in the hallway with a dazed look in his eyes before creeping down towards your office and eventually entering inside, and then standing tall over you, upon which you must put on the Freddy mask to ward him off, which somehow works on Freddy himself. Apparently, if he is out in the hallway and you're on your monitor too long, he will jump scare you without even entering the office. Withered Freddy lacks any voice lines through any of his appearances, but is presumed to have the same voice as Freddy as, well, as we covered, he is Freddy. Guessing it would sound something like this.
Now would be a good time to hold your breath.
Except likely more broken. The one notable thing about Withered Freddy is that he is the star of the Save Them minigame that I mentioned earlier, where he follows the puppet and sees the bodies of the deceased children. There is not much else to say about Withered Freddy, really. Withered Bonnie, on the other hand, has a little more to talk about. Withered Bonnie, unlike classic Bonnie, looks slightly more blue in color, with 2 buttons on his chest, his teeth larger, more spread out, and his mouth wider. As for the damage, it is extensive. A missing arm spilling wires, a degloved hand, holes on his legs, and most notably, an entirely missing face, revealing his endoskeleton underneath. This gutted face is both creepy and the source of sympathy that surrounds him. Indeed, Withered Bonnie is arguably the most popular of the Withered Animatronics, especially upon FNAF 2's release. The lack of a face gives him an uncomfortable quality compared to Freddy, especially when he comes to the office and stands over you. It is unsettling. Look at his initial teaser, the hollow crater a sharp contrast to Toy Bonnie's cutesy appearance. And yes, that teaser is where this sympathy began. Something borrowed is where the implications originated that Withered Bonnie's face was removed to salvage something to be put into Toy Bonnie. A fan favorite, horribly disfigured for this clean plastic cousin and then dumped into the back. Needless to say, it makes sense why fans of Bonnie would latch on to Withered Bonnie with such a tragic story, even if it means looking past him somehow managing to squeeze himself into a vent and belly crawl into your office. And yes, he does that. Somehow he fits, and then you have to be quick to ward him off with the mask before he grabs you with his good hand. Unlike Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie does have a canon voice as revealed in Ultimate Custom Night.
Might as well face the facts. You were always destined to fail. Time to face the consequences of your failure. You blinked.
Withered Bonnie piles on the face puns, and I can't tell if this is him being a compulsive cut-up or just especially bitter. It's honestly a little hard to get a read on him, though he does say one rather notable line.
What is this new prison? Is it me trapped, or is it you? Perhaps it is us both.
Which shows an amount of awareness that not many of the animatronics in Ultimate Custom Night have. See, to make a long story short, there is one vengeful soul forcing them to stay here and play along in their game of tit for tat, taking out all of their anger on, assumedly, the man who murdered them, but also trapping all of the other souls into it, whether they like it or not. Withered Bonnie knows. The Faceless one sees what's going on here. But there's not much to go on other than that when it comes to Bonnie's personality. I assume he wouldn't be making as many face puns if he still had one, but you know. 2 interesting pieces to note. Bonnie's missing face could maybe be a reference to the FNAF trailer where Bonnie yoinks off his head. And in Help Wanted, there is a repair section where you must tune Bonnie's guitar, and this requires you to open his face, which makes him resemble Withered Bonnie. that covers most of him for now. Then there is Withered Chica. Her eyes are huge, with the eyeballs sitting inside of these gaping sockets, giving her a startled or even skull-like appearance, and this is likely something that existed when she was on stage. What doesn't help is that she's missing eyebrows too. She has a pointed, complete beak with thick teeth between them as well. Other than that, she resembles classic Chica, even down to the bib. Strangely enough, Chica's hands have been removed and wires are spilling out the ends. She's constantly T-posing because of it, and it actually is pretty off-putting. Though not as much as whatever is going on with her mouth. Her gaped mouth is stuck in a permanent open state, exposing her endoskeleton teeth at all times. Chica, like Withered Bonnie, makes her way down from the back room, enters a party room, and somehow squeezes her way into a vent before sidling into your office. Impressive considering how hard it must be to climb with no usable hands. Now, like Withered Bonnie as well, Withered Chica has a voice, as revealed in Ultimate Custom Night, and her lines are, unsurprisingly, about her broken features.
Let me show you how to break your face and look like me. Come closer. Let's smile together.
But like Bonnie, she has one line that stands out, and this one has a bigger impact on the story than you may think.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
This seems to be a reference to Susie, one of the missing children, and the one we know the most about. Shown in Pizzeria Simulator and with her backstory teased in the same game, Susie was lured by the Purple Man murderer, William Afton, when she was looking for her puppy. He used that as bait to get her into the back room, in Spring Bonnie garb, and he murdered her. Now, from what we know about the missing children incident, 2 children were taken first, then the others followed suit. One of these was likely Susie, and she would later possess Chica, so she would have seen everything. Her being first is also teased in a Help Wanted 2 secret, where a lineup of Freddy memory dolls puts Chica as going first. But it is an interesting circumstance that Chica was the first, at least of this lot, and not only saw the missing children incident, but the deceased children incident, and everything between and after. It makes her broken down state even more tragic to consider that there's a soul trapped there who can only observe and do little else. But that aside, one last unfortunate note on Chica is the situation she finds herself in Ultimate Custom Night. We've got a Winnie the Pooh on our hands here, guys. The stout Chica crawls through the vents alongside Springtrap and the rest, and you can dissuade her with a snare or by shutting the vents, but if she reaches the entrance, she won't immediately jump scare you. Instead, she will get herself stuck, blocking the way out for the rest of the vent animatronics, a real ventilation altercation. But she won't stay there forever. It's a gamble. Have her block the vent, but know at any second she will dislodge herself and come after you, and hell will follow with her. So, that is the story of Withered Chica, an animatronic with one shocking lore development that could change everything, who was also one thick chicken. Next up is Withered Foxy. In contrast to classic Foxy, this Foxy has a much more pointed snout with larger, wider jaws. It's almost more like a beak shape, really. He has plenty more teeth than Foxy and doesn't have his freckling. The deterioration around Foxy involves a large hole in his head which exposes his eye and entire endo-ear. There's also wear on his arms, belly, he has a declubbed hand, and an extensive amount of wear away on his lower legs. Now, here is the interesting part. So, the wear is different from classic Foxy's. This is because he was refurbished and then had more wear later on. But the amount of leg wear is the same between both bodies. Now, this either means that Foxy burns through legs faster than Sonic the Hedgehog burns through shoes, or his legs are always exposed, which would actually make sense seeing as Foxy's supposed to run to birthday parties, as shown in the Go-Go Foxy minigame. And the fact that, unless I'm wrong, I don't think we've ever seen classic Foxy with complete legs. Foxy doesn't fool around with events or anything. He comes out of the back, looms in the hallway, and if you don't shine your flashlight on him, he will rush in and immediately jump scare you. The Freddy mask does not trick him either, so you've got to deal with him the second you see him. There's no sauntering into the office. If you see him, he's about 2 seconds from Liftoff. When it comes to his voice lines, Withered Foxy is a very strange case. Unlike Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica, Withered Foxy doesn't get any new voice lines in Ultimate Custom Night because, well, he wasn't there. But we do get voice lines, and they are significantly different from normal Foxy's voice, and located in a strange place. The Foxy.exe parody minigame from Fnaf World. You play as Bonnie and walk around in this abyss of Foxy face, trying to avoid Withered Freddy and Cat, while Foxy slowly removes his head. All the while, Withered Foxy is speaking in a strange voice.
Listen to my voice, and you will find the key. When you can see, how fast can you flee? Be sure you step through the heart of madness.
There's also this death minigame line,
Call your big arm onto us.
which you might recognize as a meme. I'm pretty sure this isn't Withered Foxy's voice. This is just a gag voice. Like the voices for Foxy Fighters, the Sans toy Chica, who actually has her real voice, the inflection's just a little different. In all likelihood, I think Withered Foxy's voice likely just sounds, in reality, like a crunchy Foxy.
Never underestimate the cunning of a pirate. Or a fox, for that matter.
Withered Foxy's most important role is in the Go Go Foxy minigame, which shows him running into a birthday party twice before passing an eerie purple man on the third and coming into a room filled with children. Grayed out. Bodies. It's not clear which children these were. Likely not the DCI, but either the MCI or another incident entirely. That's really all there is to be said about Withered Foxy. Last up is Withered Golden Freddy. Due to the nature of Golden Freddy as a ghostly hallucination who teleports in and out of existence, it is never clear whether there is a physical creature here or merely a ghost. If there is a body somewhere decaying, or if it's just taking up the image of being decayed to match the others. There's not much to say about Golden Freddy in this case. Though speaking of Golden Freddy, and Fredbear, hey Golden Freddy, and the old diner, you might have noticed by now that some of the Withereds have buttons on their bellies. This was a design choice carried over from the earlier Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, and it really goes to show how close the generations were together. In fact, I might take a guess and say the Withereds were the band immediately after the diner. This might also explain why the Withereds seem to tower so much. This is never confirmed, but if the Withereds were based off of the original Springlocks suits, then they might be noticeably larger than normal animatronics, as the Springlocks suits were meant to fit wearers inside, and these wearers were adult men. It is also due to these early adaptations of the characters that Freddy's band ended up a little less than cute, likely an attempt to try to match the appearance of the old wearable suits, but who can really say? So, like I said a little earlier, the Withereds are the physical embodiment of Freddy's dirty past. The soul of Freddy's, which they tried to cover up through feeble efforts but only ended up crawling out from the back room any chance they got. They are quite literally the current bodies of the children whose blood is on Freddy's hands. But due to Fazbear Entertainment's negligence, the painful end of their life was prolonged as they were shoved into a back room to mold and decay for no particular reason. Laziness? Ineptitude? We don't know. But the past came back to haunt them. More children died, and after that last party, the pizzeria shut down. So what were the fates of the decrepit, haunted animatronics? Well, surprisingly, compared to the new and shiny Toy Animatronics, which no doubt had a small fortune spent on them and were assumedly immediately deconstructed, as their parts are seen abandoned in a box in Fnaf 3, the Withered Animatronics were reclaimed from the back room, refitted, cleaned up, even made a little softer, and put back up on stage at the new restaurant, the Fnaf 1 Pizzeria. Ironically, this means that we actually don't know what specifically closed down that last restaurant. But knowing Fazbear Entertainment's half-hearted cleaning practices, they could have still been oozing mucus after all this time. Or even more likely, even more children were taken and killed. So it almost seems like a good ending for the Withereds, as long as you ignore the trapped souls, the eventual closure of the next Freddy's, and the back-to-back fires. Oof. At least Bonnie got his face back. Outside of their FNAF 2 appearances, the Withereds had a handful of cameos, but no greater lore implications. And I say that as the classics have always been important, but this specific design of the classics was not. They were playable characters in FNAF World, where they were a tier up from the starting animatronics, And they appeared in Ultimate Custom Night, where Bonnie and Chica had their lines, which I went over earlier. They also appeared in Help Wanted's FNAF 2 levels, naturally, and feature in the Trick or Treat minigame alongside Mangle and Balloon Boy, where you knock on the door and, by looking through the windows, have to guess which animatronic is coming and put on the appropriate mask to get candy instead of being jump scared. A neat little minigame, though not specifically tailored to the Withereds, it works. Though that makes sense, along with their rather small appearance pool, this is the classic Freddy's band, beloved by most, just at a different stage of their lifetime. A painful stage surrounded by death and decay. Just a snapshot into the turmoil at Freddy's and our best look at the fallout following shortly after the missing children incident. We could see the Withereds in this state in the future, and someday we may see this missing location, but we've already got a pretty good look at it. Between the minigames of the crimes and circumstances surrounding the toys and the Withereds, we know too much about a place we barely saw. We've seen everything, in a matter of speaking. But that's all there really is to say this time around. Thank you for watching.